Imagine the weight of 40 feet of wet, unstable clay pressing against your chest. You can't breathe, and the little air you gasp in carries the metallic stench of sewage and iron. Your vision blurs because the oxygen is gone. Somewhere in the dark, beneath Chicago's tunnels, men vomit blood as their lungs collapse. But the real horror isn't the suffocation. It's realizing that the wall behind you isn't made of stone. It's the bodies of buried workers.
In 1894, the city of Chicago tried to cover it up, but the first crack in the official narrative didn't come from a whistleblower. It came from a stench so foul it forced authorities to dig up their own secrets. What they found down there wasn't an engineering project. It was a mass grave disguised as infrastructure.
By 1899, Chicago had become one of the fastest-growing cities in America. Its streets were crowded with wagons, streetcars, merchants, and thousands of workers arriving every day in search of opportunity. During winter, mud covered entire roads. During summer, heat turned parts of the city into an unbearable environment. Businesses needed coal, supplies, and materials delivered constantly. Every delay meant lost money. That was when a small group of investors began promoting an idea that sounded impossible. Instead of expanding the city above ground, they wanted to expand it below. Far below. Official documents described a simple underground utility network. According to public records, the tunnels would be narrow and used only for cables and maintenance access. But some engineers started noticing unusual details. Certain sections appeared larger than necessary. Some blueprints showed dimensions that did not match the public reports. While citizens believed only a few underground passages were being built, excavation crews continued working beneath entire districts. Nobody truly knew how large the project had become. And the deeper workers dug, the harder it became to hide what was really taking shape beneath Chicago. Because the first major problems would arrive sooner than anyone expected, and some of them never appeared in the official records.
At first, everything seemed to be progressing exactly as the investors had planned. At least, that was what the official reports suggested. But beneath the busy streets of Chicago, reality looked very different. Hundreds of workers descended narrow shafts every day, carrying shovels, pickaxes, lanterns, and crude explosives. The work rarely stopped, day and night. While the city slept, entire crews continued digging beneath buildings, warehouses, and crowded streets. The pressure was intense. Investors wanted rapid progress. Every new foot of tunnel meant more money flowing into the project. According to reports from the period, some supervisors pushed crews to continue working even when water began seeping through the tunnel walls. In certain sections, workers encountered unstable pockets of mud where a single mistake could trigger a collapse.
Accidents became increasingly common. Tools vanished. Mine carts were found overturned without explanation. Some workers claimed they heard strange sounds echoing through newly opened passages. Others swore they felt drafts coming from places that did not appear on any official blueprint. As the excavation expanded, one question began spreading among the workers. What exactly was being built beneath them? Because the tunnels already seemed far larger than anything described to the public. And what happened next would make many men think twice before descending back into the darkness. Because the greatest threat was not the darkness. It was the city itself pressing down from above.
Sidewalks appeared to sink overnight. Officially, everything remained under control. But among the workers, a different story was spreading. Rumors claimed that some tunnel sections extended far beyond approved limits. Others believed hidden passages existed that never appeared on official maps. And as the network expanded, fewer people knew exactly where it ended. Stories soon began circulating about restricted zones, places where only selected workers were allowed, and where some men returned visibly shaken. But nothing would terrify the workers more than water, because they were digging beneath a city connected to one of the largest freshwater systems on Earth.
As the tunnels pushed deeper beneath Chicago, problems stopped being isolated incidents. They became part of daily life. In many areas, workers were forced to excavate beneath busy streets without disrupting activity above. Thousands of tons of earth, stone, buildings, and traffic pressed constantly against the newly built tunnels. Many laborers described the experience as working inside a trap. A single miscalculation could turn an entire section into an underground grave. Engineers attempted to reinforce the walls with timber, steel, and concrete, but investors often demanded faster progress than safety crews could provide. According to reports from the era, small sinkholes and structural issues began appearing in certain parts of the city. Cracks emerged unexpectedly. Doors stopped closing properly.
At first, they were only small drops. A leak here, another there. Nothing that seemed capable of stopping a project that consumed millions of dollars and employed hundreds of workers. At least, that was what investors believed. But deep beneath Chicago, workers already knew something was changing. Water appeared in places where it should not exist. At first, it trickled slowly through clay walls. Then it formed puddles that grew larger every day. In some sections, laborers worked with water covering their ankles. Lantern light reflected off the dark surface, making it impossible to judge the true depth of certain holes. Some engineers dismissed the problem. Others became increasingly worried. Chicago sat near major waterways, and a miscalculation could transform the tunnel network into a deadly trap. Yet construction continued. Reports rarely described the true scale of the danger. Investors demanded progress, and progress came first. According to workers, some crews were ordered to continue digging even when water entered faster than it could be removed. Then, stranger stories began to circulate. Some men claimed they could hear running water beyond the tunnel walls, as if hidden chambers existed beyond the known network, as if they were approaching something that should never have been disturbed. But the worst was still ahead, because water was no longer entering the tunnels. It was beginning to destroy them. By now, the tunnels had become far larger than most citizens imagined. The underground network expanded silently beneath the city. Every month brought new corridors, new excavation sites, new funding requests, and rising costs. Officially, everything remained on schedule. Inside the project, few believed that anymore. Workers began noticing inconsistencies between different maps. Certain passages appeared in one blueprint and vanished from another. Some chambers seemed completely absent from public records. As the network expanded, it became increasingly difficult to determine who truly controlled the project. Rumors spread rapidly. Some laborers believed investors intended to build something much larger than a transportation tunnel. Others spoke of hidden storage rooms, unauthorized chambers, corridors ending in locked doors. Nobody knew what was true, but everyone sensed the project had crossed a point of no return. Chicago was creating something enormous beneath its own streets, something few people fully understood. And it was during this period that stories began circulating about sections of the tunnels that even supervisors avoided, because some workers claimed entire areas existed that officially had never been built. Months later, a completely different problem began to spread through the tunnels. At first, nobody paid much attention. It was just a strange smell. Workers noticed it in certain sections of the underground network. Some believed it came from stagnant water. Others blamed sewage or damp conditions. But something about it felt wrong. The odor seemed to move.
One week it appeared in a corridor. The next week it vanished and appeared somewhere else. Supervisors ordered everyone to keep working. Engineers searched for the source but found nothing. As time passed, more workers started complaining. Some covered their noses with cloth. Others refused to enter specific areas alone. The smell continued getting stronger, and the most disturbing part was that nobody could explain where it was coming from. For the first time, management decided to launch a formal inspection. What the inspectors discovered would change the story of the tunnels forever.
The smell continued to spread through the tunnels. Workers described it as a mixture of stagnant water, decay, and something they could not identify. Some said it was strongest near the deepest sections of the network. Others believed it was coming from sealed passages hidden behind brick walls. No matter how hard the crews searched, the source remained a mystery. As complaints increased, management could no longer ignore the problem. That was when inspectors were finally sent underground.
The inspection began quietly. A small team was sent underground to investigate the growing complaints. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The tunnels appeared exactly as expected. But as inspectors moved deeper into the network, they discovered sections that were missing from official reports. Some passages had been sealed. Others appeared to lead nowhere. The smell was stronger in these areas. Questions quickly started to emerge. Why were certain sections omitted from the records? Who authorized the extra construction? And how much of the underground system was still unknown? The investigation raised more questions than answers. But one thing had become clear. The tunnels beneath Chicago were far larger and more mysterious than anyone had imagined. And this was only the beginning. In the years ahead, the tunnels would become an invisible city beneath Chicago, a hidden world connected to businesses, warehouses, and secrets that few people ever saw.
As inspectors pushed deeper into the unfinished sections of the tunnels, they began finding areas that had been sealed for years. Some chambers were flooded, others had completely collapsed. Workers whispered that these forgotten sections hid the truth behind the strange odor. According to rumors spreading through the construction crews, several accidents had never been fully reported. Some believed that workers trapped during cave-ins had never been recovered.
Others claimed that flooded shafts concealed bodies buried beneath mud and debris. No official records confirmed these stories, yet the rumors refused to disappear. The deeper the inspectors searched, the more abandoned passages they uncovered. Collapsed tunnels, hidden chambers, flooded excavation pits, and signs that parts of the project had been closed far too quickly. Whether the stories were true or not, one thing became clear. The smell was coming from somewhere deep inside the forgotten sections of the underground network, and nobody wanted to stay there long enough to find out the full truth. What began as a construction project was becoming something far more mysterious.
For years, the tunnels continued to grow beneath Chicago. Most people never knew they existed. From the streets above, everything appeared normal. Businesses opened, buildings expanded, the city prospered. But below the surface, an entirely different world was taking shape. What began as a construction project slowly evolved into a hidden network stretching beneath the heart of Chicago. New passages appeared, new connections were built, and over time, the tunnels became far more than a transportation system. They became a city beneath the city, a place few people ever saw.
And according to countless stories, a place where secrets could disappear without a trace. But the strangest chapter had not happened yet. Because in the years ahead, Chicago would enter one of the most dangerous periods in its history, the era of Prohibition, the age of bootleggers, smugglers, organized crime, and one of the most famous names in American history, Al Capone. The question is,
Did Chicago's underground tunnels become the perfect hidden highway for an invisible criminal empire? In the next episode, we descend even deeper into the hidden city beneath Chicago, and the story only gets darker.